So the first step on the journey with our brand new Dodge, well, it's not a new Dodge, it's an old Dodge, is going to be to make it safe to drive. I've done a couple of licks around the block and it's actually not too bad, but there was a few things that need to be done to this car straight away, and this is the first thing, and that is a disc brake conversion on the front, because it is still wearing the old drum brakes. Now, if you know anything about Dodges, well, they've got an interesting drum setup on the front. What they have is they have two drums and they have drum shoots, and if you know anything about drum brakes, they kind of experts will tell you that they actually work really well. They work better than all the other bits and pieces and so forth. The two drum brakes that are on the outside have a wheel cylinder in the middle, and the wheel cylinder in the middle, when you put on the brake, pushes the drum cylinders out, and that leading drum cylinder as it turns around pushes out. It's called the leading brake. Now, when you do that, essentially that's supposed to self-energise the rear one to come on, and when adjusted correctly, they work absolutely perfect. And it all works because basically magic. Because magic is what happened when they had back in the Stone Age, which is when drum brakes were all the rage. But right now, we need disc brakes. And disc brakes are what we have right here, and we have the mother of all disc brake conversions. It is essentially a together by UPC, ultra performance components. It also has the hub, which will bolt straight on, so the hub will bolt on. We have this little guy here, which essentially is the bearing carrier. Bearing carrier is going to sit in there somewhere like that, and then of course disc will go on the top, and then piece de resistance is this thing here. Have a look at that caliper. Huge twin piston caliper, massive big brake pads at the front, and this is going to make life just a whole lot easier for the front of the Dodge. It's going to pull it up nice and easy, and what we need to do now is we need to install all this and get it on the car. It all bolts on. Oh, I've even got brake lines, which is fantastic, because the brake lines I've got on this one at the moment have perished. So the whole front end in regards to brakes are coming off. This is going on, and this little guy would be a hell of a lot more safer. One of the most important things about owning an old car, or owning any car for that matter, is it's all well and good to go fast, it's all well and good to drive in style, but you need to make sure your car is safe. And all the cars that I've had have always just paid attention to things like brakes and steering. Have a look at this. I don't know if you can see this or not. Can you see that line? Have a look at this line here. Look at how badly cracked that is and perished that is. And the reason why they perish is basically just because the rubber just gets cracked. But when you put your foot on the brake pressure comes through, hydraulic brake pressure, and in a crack, underneath the crack in that makeup of that line is like a braided web, and then obviously the fluid runs through the middle of that. But with brake pressure, it can actually cause a bulge, and it will bulge the brake line, and it will give you a false pedal feel, thinking that you've got your foot on the brake, but you actually haven't. Eventually it can actually burst, and when it bursts and you're doing 100 k's an hour or 80 k's an hour, you know what's going to happen next. Keep your brake lines looked after and your safety of your car. So we have a quick check now of the back of the brake, and you can see this is kind of like the hub, and the hub obviously bolts onto the upper and the lower control arms, and the ball joints are all pretty good. There's no hassles about those. They all look really good, especially that bottom one. It's got a lot of really good meat in it. But you can see it has two bolts here, and then obviously it pins down through there. Now, when we actually have a look at the back of our new axle here, we can see there's the pin at the top, all right? So the pin at the top here is the pin at the top up there, and then we have those two lower bolts at the very bottom there, one here and one across there, and those are going to be those two bolts there. So what we now need to do is undo this one and undo this one, then we can keep the rest of it, and we're just going to use this piece here that has that steering control arm as well. Not everything goes to plan when you're working on old cars. First and foremost, my GoPro died. That is what happens. And I'm halfway through sort of pulling this hub apart for the front of the Phoenix. And I've just suddenly realized, after getting it this far, and this was the only time I was going to be able to work it out, that the lower hub, I'm going to get my words right here, lower hub connecting arm that goes to the steering arm, I think that's what you call it, which actually sits on the bottom of this new hub, and it sits on the bottom of the new hub with these two bolts, and it sort of sits across like that. This is actually 11 centimeters across. This is 9 centimeters across. So this won't bolt to this. It will go on the car, but it won't connect at the bottom, so it technically won't go on the car. The other thing I've noticed is the top ball joint pickup point, which is kind of on this like a metal boss. On that one, it's 7 centimeters and it tapers down to 6. On this one, it's 5 centimeters tapering down to 4. So I have to go and have the top of these machined in a conical fashion so that ball joint will sit on the top correctly on that. In regards to the bottom, yeah, I'm a little bit, I've got to work out what I'm going to do here. I'll probably go and speak to maybe an engineer shop because these are the sort of things that they can take care of quite easily. Or the other opportunity will be to find another lower ball joint arm to the steering arm, one that's narrower. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, I might need a bit of thinking time. So, yeah, thinking time. So whilst I've been in the midst of trying to work out what to do with the bolts on that front hub, I have worked out, after spending some thinking time, what I'm going to do. That I just noticed that the sun visor on the Dodge, it's okay, but it's a bit so-so. And I thought to myself, oh, I reckon I've got some spare ones from the CL, from the Chrysler. And sure enough, I have. And they are exactly the same width, same contour for the revision mirror, and the same pickup point over here as well. So whilst I'm getting the front end fixed, I can do a bit of cleaning up and get those done as well to complement the rest of the work I've done in here. Okay, so I now have everything to put this together. There's the stub axle with the new lower ball joint ready to go. That's on. I also have the hub that's ready to go on with all the bearings. But then I come to the really good fun part. These are the front rotors. Have a look at those rotors. 298 mil of Falcon BF slotted and vented rotor. But that's not all. Wait, there's more. We have got a twin piston Falcon caliper, big bad mamma jamma. Now, so it's basically going to have Falcon BF brakes on the front of it. And to put that into context, the Falcon BF sedan weighs about 1,700 kilos. Now, the Dodge weighs anywhere from about 1,400 to 1,500 kilos. So it's about a 200 kilo weight saving. So these brakes are going to pull this up on an absolute dime. And in time, I'll fit a brake booster as well to the master cylinder. But to start off with, it'll be fine. But right now, I'm going to fit all this. But rather than let you all just put up with a slow-mo and stuff like that, I'm going to do this. You ready? Set. And bingo. Here it is. The magic of editing. Have a look at that. Here we go. Brakes are on. Hubs are on. Stub axles on. Big calipers on. Discs on. It's ready to go. All we have to do is bleed them, put the rims back on, and cruise down the road. And I'll have brakes. I'll be able to stop it. And that's a good thing. So let's sort all this out and let's hit the road. Just before we put the Dodge back on the road, there's a couple of little features I want to upgrade on the inside just to make it a bit more of a rewarding driving experience. Now, over here on the dash, you can see that we actually have, you see that? Yeah, you can see that. There's the Tacho that was on the car. Now, this Tacho here was actually originally located down there. And as you can sort of see, it's just a cheap Chinese Tacho. It's got, you know, 7,000 RPM. It's got a shift light on the far side. You can play around with these knobs and stuff like that. And the Tacho, you know, for one of a better reason, is going to do what it's going to do. But the reality of it is this is a 1965 car, 1963 car. And you want to keep all the modifications on this period correct so that, you know, when people look at it aesthetically, it looks correct. Sure, it's got a set of Street Pro wheels on it, which are only around in the last couple of years, but they are, for one of a better reason, Convo style. This vehicle here never came out with a Chinese tachometer. What it came out with probably back in the day was a thing called a Sun Super Pro 2 tacho, which had a chrome sort of edge on it and it had a blue line that went around. And that was sort of anywhere from about the late 50s to the late 60s, early 70s. That's what this car would have been fitted with. But what I have found is this, which is an Equus make. As you can sort of see there, I can't really light it up, unfortunately, not yet anyway. But they make a blue line tacho. It goes around to sort of 8,000 RPM. You can manually set the limit on on the little indicator there, but that's going to look a hell of a lot better than that monstrosity there. And what I'll do is I'll end up putting it pretty well in the same spot. The other thing I've got is I've got a miles per hour speedo on this one here, and I'm not sure if the cable is right, if the wheels are right, all that sort of stuff, so I'm not sure. And the last thing I want to do is go and getting speeding fines. So what I've actually done for $49 is bought one of these, and it only lights up when I want it to. Have a look at that. What that is a GPS Kings kilometre an hour deal that goes from a satellite, and as you're driving along, as you can sort of see visually, it's just going to sit down on the side over there, so it's not going to impair my vision, but it is going to give me exactly what I need in regards to how fast the car's going, so we don't get a fine. So we'll get the tacho sorted out. Stereo can wait for now. I have put a little magnet for my phone right there, so that's nice and clean. I do need cup holders. So I'm thinking about how I'm going to do that, but I want to make this a comfortable space. So time to put the tacho on, I think. Let's get that on, and then we can go from there. And sorted, organised, and I took my time, made sure I did it properly, because you only want to do this once, and you want to also make sure it looks right. And on old cars and even new cars, you want to make sure you get the look absolutely spot on. You can still personalise it, but you want to be careful you don't mix the different years with the cars, because ultimately it just doesn't look right. Now here's the dash layout now, and as you can see, it all looks pretty cool with all the factory gauges, but hiding right here and hiding right there is a couple of little pieces of modern technology. So as you can see, we now lighten them up. You only really see them once the car's on, once you're driving. Up the top we can see our speedo little reflector is secured in there, no problems at all. And I've got the line running down the outside here, and that actually now tucks back in up under, so instead of running through here, which keeps it clean. Now over here we have that replica Sun tacho with the blue dial sweep, or the blue line sweep, and I think you can see when I flick the lights on, if the lights want to work, there we go, it really does just look neat and clean. The oil pressure light obviously will go out, but what I've also done is I've actually secured this on a pedestal mount, so it actually sits in there nice and clean, and no matter what angle you look at it from, you can see it's nice and clean and easy. I've also tidied up all the wires underneath, so there's no issues and no problems there. Next step is going to be to change this guy here, which is the stereo. I need to put something in a little bit better, but right now this is done. We're actually ready to cruise and get out and about and have a drive in the car and just enjoy it like it is right now before we get stuck into the next mods. Do me a favour, make sure you hit like and subscribe. The Dodge is going to do a few little changes and bits and pieces, and I hope you enjoy them as we work our way through it. But yeah, please make sure you hit this like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. We love hearing comments from you, and we always try and reply as best we can as well. So onwards and upwards with the Dodge, and with any luck, more mods to come. Did you pick it? Did you pick it when I was doing this? Did anybody see it? The eagle-eye ones amongst you would have seen it. Have you noticed that I've taken the indicator stalk and now put it on the right-hand side, whereas it was on the left-hand side? Because originally this was a left-hand drive car, but I had some great advice from a great mate of mine, Rest IP, Milton 80, my Summernats burnout mate, used to tell me that with a left-hand drive car, all you had to do is turn the steering column around, loosen it off, turn it around, and bingo, you've got right-hand side indicators. So we've got that too now. How awesome's that? This car gets better and better, and my good mates, God rest their souls, are still delivering. See you guys.